We're going to talk about Hawaii. This is from 6 months ago. This is quite literally the reason why, it's not even a joke, the new conspiracy theory in Hawaii isn't necessarily that a wildfire occurred and there were 80-mile winds due to a hurricane and there's incredibly dry vegetation due to the natural grass that originally grew in the region was swapped out with vegetation that actually cannot withstand the temperatures and the sunlight and becomes much drier, which created this circumstance, which was like a tinderbox. None of that is real. It's not Jewish space lasers. It's Chinese space lasers. That's right. You think I'm joking, and obviously I don't believe any of this, but a lot of people do believe this, for the record. First, I'm going to give you an update on what's going on. It is now the deadliest in modern U.S. history, the Maui wildfires. I believe the latest count, at least when I started, was at 93. There are still thousands of people who are not accounted for. It is a horrifying situation. I have already donated personally, but we've put donation links on my coverage of the Hawaii disaster.
This is now the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history. And just behind us, this is the remnants of a house burned in another blaze as the entire island is battling ideal conditions right now for wildfires. What we know about this tragedy is already unbearable. Nearly 100 dead, more than 2,000 homes and buildings destroyed. We now know that only 3% of those homes have been checked for bodies. So many residents who escaped the flames but are now searching for their loved ones and tonight angry at officials and a warning system they say failed them. This is what it looked and felt like escaping the Lahaina wildfire.
Oh no, guys. No, we have to leave.
This new video showing the sheer panic as a family stuck in a line of cars had minutes to escape before the flames engulfed the road out.
High winds, some power lines fell on palm trees, which started it. There's bad land management, which was an accelerant. Bad land management in the sense that like the non-native grass is way more susceptible to drying out, especially with like a tremendous amount of sunlight. Super high winds, very dry air, carries it very quickly, impossible to manage in a short period of time. Everything engulfs in flame. It turns into hell.
Did you hear any alarms? Did you get any kind of warning?
No alarms, no warning, nothing.
The desperation of those chilling moments now turning to anger.
We're mad. No, we didn't just lose our homes. We lost our town, lost history, you know? Our kids are traumatized. You guys messed up real bad.
There is one way to mitigate some of the worst aspects of this, as far as I understand, and I am no big city lawyer. Moving some of the power lines underground would, at the very least, actually be a cost-effective measure in the long term, but of course, an incredibly expensive one in the short term. Here's why. When you have an above-ground electrical grid, especially in areas where there are a lot of trees that are susceptible to falling, one thing you're supposed to do with respect to upkeep is to cut the vegetation that is in contact with the fucking power lines. This is a big part of it, making sure that like no natural vegetation is touching power grid. That is a profoundly expensive endeavor. You want to know why I know it's expensive? Because they don't do it as a cost-effective measure. They just choose to not do it. They don't keep the fucking flora in check. That leads to a lot of fucking problems. Think about how much we just talked. All of this stuff is difficult to explain. You know what's not difficult to explain? Lasers. The truth is much more complicated. You have to talk about anthropogenic climate change. You have to talk about bad land management. You have to talk about non-native grass and why it is way drier. You have to talk about the electrical grid and multiple points of failure. You have to talk about a lack of adequate response immediately in a crisis, in a moment of crisis. What are the other components that led to the government not sounding the alarms as quickly as possible? Were they afraid that tourists would be terrified? Is that one of the reasons? You know, these are questions that you have to ask. However, you don't have to ask any of those questions if you say lasers are the reason, okay? Especially when you're fucking Tim Pool. And you can tie that to a very real fear that a lot of Americans feel about a real present threat to America's hegemonic power. China. Chinese lasers. Not the Jewish lasers that were responsible for California wildfires, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene, but Chinese ones. Because guess what? Jewish space lasers, anti-Semitic conspiracy, fucking ridiculous. Chinese space lasers, on the other hand, well, very appropriate. We love that. Okay, let's hear what Tim Pool has to say.
We are not not on good terms with China right now. I mean, we can pretend, oh no, trade's going on, everything's fine. No, come on. They want Taiwan. They're building up their military. There's a chance for escalation, a chance for conflict. They want the South China Sea. And then they've got ships with Russia coming near the Aleutians, coming near U.S. territory, going near Hawaii, and then they're pulling off something like this. So look, how hard is it to start a fire? It's ridiculously easy to start a fire. And they can fire lasers.
It's a little challenging to get the fire to spread, but there were hurricane level, it said it was like hurricane level winds, or there's...
I don't...
Add a little bit of real truth into the conspiracy, high, really fast winds. Really fast winds. That is creating a ripe environment for the space laser to continue spreading the fire. To which Tim responds, no, you don't understand. It's multiple points of ignition.
If they can start 50 fires all at once with a sequence of satellites doing high burst, high energy lasers, then getting fire to spread isn't really the issue because you make the fire instantly in a bunch of different places.
And they can monitor the weather in Hawaii. I mean, you could just Google that. Like what I was reading from the National Guardsman who's making a statement was that, there's low humidity and high wind. So that's perfect conditions for wildfires to spread, which means any arson fires would also spread as quickly. Like China is perfectly able to say, like, this happens to be a dangerous period for fire in Hawaii. Perhaps now, if they were to do something. There was also a Chinese balloon observed above international waters near Hawaii in February 2022.
Wow.
If Hurricane Harvey happened in 2023, they would have been calling it an HAARP operation. Oh, yeah. Well, remember the Turkish earthquakes. There were conspiracy theories in Turkey that believed that it was the cause of HAARP creating tectonic activity in Turkey, which is placed perfectly on top of fucking fault lines where massive earthquakes happen in great frequency and magnitude.
I think it's really funny because they claimed she said Jewish space lasers when she mentioned like Rothschild.
I love that he is like openly belittling Marjorie Taylor Greene's conspiracy and just like changing one component of it. That's wonderful. HAARP is High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, which is a program to control the weather. It is a conspiracy theory favorite. Conspiracy theories abound as U.S. military closes the HAARP program. The U.S. Air Force has told Congress it intends to shut down HAARP, a controversial Alaska-based research facility that studies the upper atmosphere. As far as I understand, it's like a relatively failed weather control research. Conspiracy theories believe that this is a way to control the weather, like this was actually a weather control weapon, and that's it. That's what they were claiming. And it somehow also causes earthquakes and natural disasters because it is yet another way to try to deal with the realities that you're experiencing and you don't want to fucking work your brain on why it's happening. Extreme weather conditions are happening due to Chinese lasers. Extreme weather conditions are happening not due to anthropogenic climate change. It must be happening due to the government conspiracy to control the weather. When you run out of options on what you can counter, you're going to start saying more and more unhinged shit. And that is precisely what's going on with conspiracy theories like this. That is precisely what's going on with conspiracy theories such as Chinese space lasers are responsible for wildfires.
We have video of lasers being fired from satellites. Their argument came from a pollution monitoring satellite, but lasers did come from this satellite. Now, I don't know the capabilities of this, but I'm not going to believe them. Right? I'm not going to believe China's like, we're looking for pollution in Hawaii.
He's not going to believe you, no matter what you say. Here's another one that was insane. Everything is burnt but the trees. But don't point that out or you're a conspiracy theorist. A lot of people dunked on this, obviously, including Charlie. This app is proof that people are actually dumber today than ever before. Fire is a government lie started by the deep state 15-minute city agenda, and the trees are in on it. Fucking beautiful. At this point, it's like it doesn't even need to make sense. These guys haven't even thought it through. There was at least a point in time when the conspiracies were supposed to, in their fucked up logic, make sense. They're pointing to the fucking trees going, why are the trees still there? Why are they still alive? Thinking that trees automatically burn to a crisp and turn into fucking ashes in the instance of any kind of wildfire. Where are you going with this conspiracy theory? Because those trees are most likely fucking dead, okay? The ones that aren't dead probably aren't dead due to the inner shell of the trees being full of fucking water, but most of those trees are most likely dead. But let's say that there is this major conspiracy. What the fuck is going on? Like, what in your mind, what is happening? Why would someone start these fires only to ensure that the trees stay alive? Right wing claims to be more of the salt of the earth and doesn't even know that you need to let firewood dry for months before you use it. Growing trees have moisture in them, so they take more to burn. I was just about to say this as well. It's like, if you've ever been out in the wild and you have tried to start a fucking fire, you already know you're not supposed to cut branches off of a fucking fucking tree to try and start a fire because that shit will not burn. You don't use a live tree to start a fire or even to make the fire larger. You don't do that. Some plants are able to survive wildfires due to a layer of thermal insulation provided by their bark, dead leaves, or moist tissues. Maui fires were so bad that a boat in the water caught on fire. Wow, that's crazy. Notice how the parts of the boat that are on fire are above the water, dry areas. That's so crazy. Boats famously can never catch on fire, obviously. That's how bad it was. So this fire incinerated buildings, but the power poles are still standing. Got it. Totally makes sense. Listen, man, nothing makes sense to you because you're a fucking idiot. That doesn't mean there is a grand conspiracy. It just means you're a fucking dumbass. Because Elon Musk's Twitter rewards shit like this, and this guy will probably make money off of this idiotic conspiracy theory, why wouldn't you stop yourself? It's actually financially viable to just be this fucking stupid because there's a lot of other people that are just as fucking stupid and they love this dumb shit. They love sipping on that dumb juice, dude. They love it. They're like, oh, please, no thanks. Books? Absolutely not, sir. I want the dumb juice. Give me more of the dumb juice. I want to douse myself in it. The unmelted blue card gives a clue as to the energy spectrum used. Ooh, that's a bingo. Who the fuck am I to question God's plan? Just admire in the mysterious ways in which he works. Very true. I don't see anything all strange, really. I'm sorry. I believe it was due, but still don't see anything weird. Joyce is like, I believe your conspiracy theories, but I don't really understand the point you're trying to make. And he responds, untouched blue car, ... slightly melted front bumper. But that's it. A stopped car catches fire, then becomes an obstacle. Eventually, a car in the other lane goes too slow or stops right next to it, then goes up. Repeats until all other cars can't get around or drivers think they can't, and then it's burning the exploding traffic jam. Once this formation happens, how would you drive around it? But it doesn't matter. This guy's trying to basically say the blue car is what men drove in to look in the other cars, not sure they would walk on the highway. No, bumper is melted. That car was there. They're still having this conversation. They're saying that, like, due to the high frequency energy beams that they were fucking lasering down into Hawaii to start a wildfire, which I don't know why they were trying to do that, the blue car was able to survive because of the specific kind of lasers that they're using. It just can't penetrate through blue. Notice how the guy's shirt is blue and he's not dead? I'm a very big brain guy. So here's a heartless Dupa Kapalus who thinks the military set fire to Maui because they hosted a green energy conference in January, believing that the hurricane that both caused the fires and wind that exacerbated the situation were created to weather modification. Let's get into the HAARP conspiracy.
So today we're going to give a little update on the Hawaiian fires. Now I want you to look at this footage, and this sure doesn't look like a fire to me. It looks like something almost exploded or something went off. Now what's interesting is certain things are still standing while other things are not. Now the governor did say this is climate change doing this. Interesting. What they don't talk about is in January how they had in Maui a smart city conference to turn Maui into an entire smart island, changing everything to electric, renewables, solar panels, and pushing everybody into electric vehicles. 15-minute smart cities.
I want to show you guys something, okay? Do we have Street View on this too? Hey, dumbass. This is already a 15-minute smart city, okay? It's just the way that it was developed from the jump is already an incredibly walkable small-ass town. The fuck are you saying? What are you even saying? It's a tiny-ass town, which is automatically a fucking 15-minute smart city. What you define as a 15-minute smart city, which somehow Americans are against. I really don't know why. They're like, I hate being 15 minutes away from like everything that I need for survival. 15-minute smart cities are 15 minutes of tyranny, brother.
Now, what's also interesting is next month in September, Hawaii is hosting the Digital Government Summit utilizing AI to govern the island. It's almost like they're resetting something to start rebuilding for this in which they're trying to push. Now, when we look at all the climate change narrative that they're going to try to push, but they're not going to talk about the Weather Modification Act of 1976. I highly recommend everybody look into this act because who is involved in the weather modification activities? Department of Agriculture, Department of Defense, Department of Interior, EPA, and NASA. So if they're modifying the weather, then could they have caused this event?
When I see such profound displays of stupidity, I don't know what to say or do. Like, I love watching insanity like this, but a part of my brain is always like thinking about the Alex Jones equation. What I enjoy for consumption as an insane conspiracy theory, I know there are other motherfuckers out there who believe, and they move further and further away from the truth. It was the capital of the old Hawaiian Empire, and apparently the land there is highly sought. Even Oprah tried to get some. I don't know. Puff. It is the capital of the old Hawaiian Empire, but due to, as far as I understand, a lot of irrigation and water management, specifically to redirect water into sugar plantations, the area's vegetation has been dried out. The area became less viable. I don't know about Oprah's interest specifically in that area, okay? But as far as I understand, there are no like big beaches that you think of when you think of Hawaiian beaches, which is part of the reason why tourism did not explode in that area, and that's why it's not as developed. Let me finish this fucking insanity. I am defeated mentally when I can't laugh at this kind of stuff because it's just so much devastation happening. How do you debate people that believe this? My friend is pretty normal but believes in space lasers for some reason. Just ask why. Like, ask why enough times and you're gonna arrive at like absolutely nothing, okay?
Well, then if we look at direct energy weapons, we can maybe see how this can all relate to this event.
Yeah, we definitely can, man. Thank you. That's a really good one. Here's our crowd favorite conspiracy theorist, Matt Wallace's take on Maui and Oprah. Oprah Winfrey has begun buying up land in Maui like crazy. 520-acre plot for $3.89 million. 330 acres for $2.47 million. Two 10-acre swaths of land for $100,000 each in 2022. In the last few years, she has gone from about 100 acres of land in Maui to over 1,000 acres. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a fire comes and destroys many homes near her, but her land remains untouched. Sound familiar? In 2017, an extremely deadly fire destroyed many homes near Oprah's Montecito mansion, but her property remained untouched. After 2017, Oprah continued expanding her land in Montecito to over 70 acres, including buying a 4-acre complex in 2019 that was destroyed by mudslides only a few weeks after that 2017 fire. Wake up. Oprah's causing mudslides and wildfires. Wake up. Oprah is capable of causing mudslides and wildfires. Wake up. She went to Lahaina and purposely lit fires up. 48,000 likes? Can I ask something here? Number one, fire is quite literally not manageable and unpredictable, and that's precisely the reason why we need to have like fire departments be publicly owned. Specifically because back in the day, it would just spread to areas that weren't covered or insured, and then quickly that would expand into areas that were insured. So in order to mitigate disaster, fire companies were made publicly owned, right? That's number one. So unless there's some mechanism that I'm unfamiliar with, I'm pretty sure you just can't really control fires like that. Unless you're like a firebender, unless you believe that Oprah is a firebender. So that's number one. Number two, it seems to me like she bought all of these, if she actually did, by the way, because I don't believe anything that this fucking guy says, okay? But it seems to me like she bought all that before the fires. Why didn't she wait until after the fires to purchase this? Duh. She is literally a firebender. How stupid of her. How dumb of her to buy so much property, if she did actually buy these properties, and then cause the wildfires to happen. Like, it doesn't make sense. She is somehow capable of bending fire to her will, and also mudslides, mind you. He did add this part, the mudslide part, which is pretty cool. I think a nice little extra touch to it. Like, it's not just the fires that she is capable of controlling, but mudslides as well. All matter of natural disasters. Even in Matt Wallace's like logical conundrum, it still doesn't make sense by his own boundaries that he set for himself. Conspiracies misplace the anger, which forces you to move the attention away from the real problems that are causing it, which means that the similar structures will remain intact, and ultimately you will deflect your attention away from the actual issue.